Creating space to change the dialogue around domestic violence. Creating space to share survivor stories. Creating space to spread awareness and education on domestic violence. Welcome to Safe Spaces, created by The Hiding Place.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of Safe Spaces. Hi, Jen.
Hello. This is episode 2.
Episode 2.
I thought it was 3. I missed one somewhere.
What?
I don't know. It's somewhere.
I think it's because we transitioned our location.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
So we've started this a few times, but here we are.
So we're back on the mountain.
And it's actually late night. So
yeah, if
we look a little drained.
So we had an exciting last night.
Been a day.
And today. So Breann was off site with a client doing some stuff, and when she came back home, a large Marge tree had fell across the
Ginormo.
Yeah, it's big. It fell across the driveway kind of thing there, and
of our safe property, yeah.
Yep. So we spent the day helping our caretaker, Mr. Carey, shout out, what? Cut up some big old tree. Haul a bunch of limbs and stuff, and I learned to use a chainsaw.
You're not going to say I learned?
I learned.
I think I learned.
You learned how to use it too.
I didn't take action with the large chainsaw.
You had the small one.
But I did learn.
You had the small one.
We both had a tutorial, but Jennifer actually got to manhandle that.
Yeah. Well, in your defense, if you would have had safety glasses, you would have tried it too.
Maybe.
I think you would have.
I'm a little scared.
It was a little.
I'll stick with the small one and you handle the big one.
Okay. I'm good. I can do it.
Yeah. So we put in some manual labor today. So we're super tired.
I would tell you, I'll let you know tomorrow how I feel, but I'll go ahead and tell you.
Yeah. And it's always funny because when we record these, it's random times during the week. So when you hear this, it won't be the same day. It's so weird. Nope. Podcasts are weird.
It is weird. It is weird.
Especially when we share our personal stuff in events. I feel like it's weird. But anyway, here we are being weird.
We're weird.
All right. So today we're talking about some tough stuff.
Yes.
So I want to put a trigger warning out.
Yes.
As we like to do on these kind of podcasts. We are going to be talking about strangulation today on this episode. So if that's something that triggers you, maybe refrain from listening to this episode or listen to it in bits and pieces, or make sure always, anytime after an episode, seek help if you need to talk it through, whether that's calling our hotline or reaching out to a close friend and just saying, hey, I need some support. I need a safe space to get out some thoughts. But we felt like I actually just felt called to do this episode maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock today. It was strangulation has to be discussed more often, and it has to be discussed in safe spaces so that people who have been strangled or choked can understand the dire need to flee from abuse.
Yeah. Looking at the numbers we're going to share later.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
domestic violence in general. We've talked about it last episode and in episodes in season 1. There's many forms of domestic violence. I never want to say one form is more harmful than the other, emotionally, because I feel like, how I always say, it's your story. So whatever happened that is the worst for you may not be the worst for someone else. There's not a level. You can't measure people's stories, right?
Sure.
But in terms of physical violence, it is proven, and many places, law enforcement departments service providers consider strangulation to be one of the most dangerous physical types of abuse.
Yeah. And it's, I don't even, like, one time is like, no.
Yeah.
So
And that's what we try to communicate. I know a lot of the times, Jen, you get calls. And one of your questions, like we discussed last episode, is can you tell me a little bit about the abuse you're enduring?
And a lot of it, they were strangled.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot
So
of
I
it.
will state that sometimes people will say choked. I was choked instead of being strangled, but there's no difference in choking and strangling. It's the same thing. I think people, sometimes it's easier to say choked because it doesn't sound as horrible,
For
if
sure.
that makes sense, as strangled.
For sure. That's a good point.
Yeah. But strangulation is one of the most lethal forms of domestic violence, and unconsciousness can occur within seconds and death within minutes.
And that's what's so scary.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important.
Right.
One time, boom, get out of there.
Yeah.
It's possible to show no outward symptoms of strangulation, but die weeks later due to lack of oxygen and other internal injuries. You don't know what happened in there, when that happens. And
yeah.
boom.
No. And what you're talking about, the numbers, the statistics. So a single incident of non-fatal strangulation, so one time, right, like you said, increases the likelihood of an attempted or completed homicide by 750%.
Guys, that number, 750%.
Right.
Come on.
So when it comes to strangulation and domestic violence, it is deadly, period. And I think it's important to note. And so I know for those of you who knew Jennifer in her past life, not her past life, but previously, a couple of years ago, she was a part of Pretty Lies and Alibis. And before you started The Hiding Place with me, you guys covered the Gabby Petito story.
Yes.
And as I was pulling some things together for this specific episode, I did find some information about her story. And of course, we know, based on all the information, the medical examiner determined that Brian Laundrie strangled Gabby Petito to death, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me. So I know that her mom, Nicole, is very much in the public eye and is an amazing advocate. And she actually, I guess, had a interview with domesticshelters.org. And she said that they had found out, her family had found out that it wasn't the first time that Gabby had been strangled by him.
Wow.
So it had happened in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if she didn't know or if she had just, I'm assuming she had just found that out, once she died and like stories started to come out. But the fact is when you're strangled, a lot of the times in situations, it's not going to be one time.
Nope.
It's going to happen one time, and then it's going to happen again and again, and it's going to happen longer the next time, and it's going to get scarier the next time, because I believe it all comes down to that control factor, right? So if I can get control over my victim and strangulation is the way to do it, then I'm going to continue to test my limits further and further to see what happens. Does that make sense?
Yep. And
it doesn't make sense to us because that's not our mindset, but that's how it works. That's the cycle.
It's uncontrolled, right? So your anger is uncontrolled and it's just unleashed.
Yeah.
And it's seconds, guys, seconds.
Yeah. And that's what so many people say. I know that when we talk to clients and survivors, it's that rage that an abuser gets to where their eyes turn black and they get this uncontrollable amount of strength. And it's terrible in those moments. And, they decide to strangle their victim. And what was it? 4 to 5 minutes, death can occur.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind,
Yeah.
for a person to be able to take that kind of situation and turn it life versus death that quick.
Yeah, for sure. And you think that what it was 5 to 7 seconds. I think it takes
for
you
unconsciousness
to
occur, right? Yeah.
Yep. And then you have that little, you can die in 5 to 7
and I'm thinking
minutes.
like unconsciousness, right? So even it talks about, it can take up to 10 seconds for you to fully pass out. But after that, you're not fighting it anymore. So if they continue to strangle, then within those couple of minutes, you lose your life. And, I'm not wanting to record this episode and like, we're trying to scare you. That's not it. I think that nobody in the situation realizes how bad it is until either someone tells them, and sometimes not even then, right? Because you have to want to hear it for yourself and to believe it. But I think that if one person is listening to this episode today and they've been strangled by their partner and they're like, wait, okay, I'm not crazy. This is a serious thing.
Yeah.
They can get help. And then, we're going to talk about how you can get help. So it's not like we're giving you these facts and then leaving you with it, because we want to be able to tell you how to get help, right? How can you move forward after such a violent act occurs to you,
And I think sometimes survivors downplay. We talked a little bit about it. Yeah. Downplay, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
He only did it a couple of times.
It's a protection mechanism, and we get it, and that's why we feel like we can talk about this, because we want to be that safe space for you, that if you are finding yourself in denial, it's okay. You're, number one, not going to be judged, and number two, you're going to be heavily supported by a really cool community. So let's talk about just some of the common symptoms of strangulations, Jen.
So a sore throat, difficulty swallowing, neck pain. Your neck is sensitive.
It is.
You have a accident and you get whiplash, right?
Yeah.
So, neck pain, hoarseness, bruising around the neck or behind your ears, discoloration to your tongue, ringing in your ears, bloodshot eyes, dizziness, memory loss, drooling, nausea or vomiting. I think that probably gives, a lot of times that can be a concussion. Mm-hmm. When you're shaking like that and stuff. Difficulty breathing, incontinence, a seizure, miscarriage, changes in mood or personality like agitation or aggression, changes in sleep patterns, changes in vision such as blurriness or seeing double, fainted or lost consciousness. Those are all scary things.
They are. So I do want to say, the one thing that I think is important to note, that one of the common myths regarding strangulation is that survivors will always have visible injuries like red marks or bruises. So while that happens some of the times, there are 50%, so it's actually 50-50, and I didn't know this. So 50% of the times victims will have visible bruising. The other 50, they won't. Isn't that crazy how your body, people's body react differently, right? If I touch my neck and mess with it or am nervous and rub it, it will be red for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and I'm not like that.
Right.
And I don't bruise it all hardly.
Right. So that's important to note, but also in only about 15% of the cases that were part of that 50%. So 15 of the 50%, the bruises were severe enough to be photographed.
Wow.
So I guess in cases that were reported, if you look at it and, taking a picture with shadows, it's hard to get a photo if the bruise isn't very prevalent. So only 15% of those were actually visible enough to see by a photograph.
Wow. And the longer you go, your bruises change too.
Right. So what is that telling you?
Yeah.
This is being done and hidden well.
Yeah.
And not even by the survivor putting makeup on it, but like the fact that people's necks don't have to necessarily bruise or show red marks. Like that blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I think while we note these symptoms, we also note that those symptoms don't have to occur in everyone. So if your friend comes to you and tells you, I've been strangled, and you look at their neck and don't see bruises, that's not a reason to doubt them. I say if someone comes to you and tells you that, you always have to respect and believe them.
Oh, for sure.
If a person is being vulnerable enough to tell you that, it's important that you show up with respect and show up with support, right?
For sure. I always think back, you used to read that thing that talks about when people are abused, they hide it by clothing, things like that. Yeah. So turtlenecks in the summertime.
But that's like the standard thing people do, but it doesn't necessarily have to show that.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's depicted that way in movies though and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that even leads to a deeper thought of like, well, is anyone going to believe me? Because I don't have marks here, And
we do get those calls a lot where people say, wait, you believe me? And I'm like,
yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I have like a gnat.
What did you say?
There was a gnat or something on my headphones. I looked, I saw it crawling. Sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, it's like, I don't have a reason not to believe you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the other important just fact about strangulation is that the effects of it don't have to occur immediately. Sometimes it happens days later. And I've actually read reports and like studies that show that sometimes strangulation can cause long-term consequences like brain damage due to oxygen deprivation, just chronic pain in your neck, in your body, seizures, psychosis, amnesia, even voice changes where your voice is completely changed for the rest of your life. But crazy, it's also important to note, and another thing that just it makes me even more aware of how serious it is that it's possible to show no outward symptoms but die weeks later due to the lack of oxygen or internal injuries you face.
It's scary.
It is.
It's so scary. It's almost like it's the accidental drowning thing, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it reminds me a lot of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's scary, talking about Gabby Petito, because we did that case, and under, they have an amazing foundation, the Gabby Petito Foundation.
Yes.
It is scary that happened to her, and she was scared to say anything about it.
Yeah. And that's why I love that Gabby's story has been so broadcasted and showcased, because it shows the true depiction of the protection a survivor feels like they have to keep up for their abuser. And it is heartbreaking, but I do believe, and I've heard her parents speak so many times, and they just say, I want her story to be able to be used so that other girls can see it. And I'm telling you, lives have been changed by her story just because of just seeing it and witnessing it so boldly being broadcasted,
Yeah, it was such a big thing because, she was missing and everybody all over was looking for her.
Yeah.
So it drew a lot of attention, and I'm just, I hate she had to go through that. I hate she lost her life. But amazing, her family has, tried to do and help.
Yeah.
And make awareness. And that's what we're about, making awareness and educating. Like you said, if one person listens to this and goes, oh, wait, that's happened to me once.
Yep.
Wait, those statistics, I'm out. Then that's worth it.
No, absolutely. So one thing I wanted to cover before we talk about getting resources and how to get resources after such a physically violent event like this. But I came across domesticshelters.org actually had this article, and it was incredible. It talked about saving yourself during strangulation. And again, I know this is so hard. It makes me feel a kind of way just having to talk about it. But again, I'm not willing to let hard conversations pass by, because I think these hard conversations have to be heard. And this is what, when we started season 2, it was like hard conversations have to be had. We have to talk about the hard stuff, So first of all, try not to panic. It's important to stay calm and try to think clearly about what you can do to escape. Number 2, protect your airway. If possible, try something called the turtle shell technique. So it's when you tuck your chin downward towards your chest as much as possible and raise your shoulders up to help support your neck. Fight back as much as possible. Kick, pinch, bite, gouge any part of the attacker's body. If you are able to reach something with a free hand, use it as a weapon to strike the attacker and possibly release his or her hold. And there's other, it talks about engaging in self-defense classes to learn how to protect yourself. If you're in fear of being strangled, that's an important thing to do to prepare yourself. And then simply, and I say simply, but it's not simple, run. As soon as you're free to escape, run, find something with which you can defend yourself, find a person that can help you, run to a neighbor's house, call 911, whatever you can do to get away from that person to save your life.
Yep. Always said I would act a fool.
I know.
But
when you're in that situation, it's a layer
hard.
it's layer upon layer. You're in the situation. It's someone that you love that's supposed to love you back. And it's happening. And those moments when things happen so fast, you say it all the time, like, that happened so fast, I couldn't even think of what to do or how to respond. And in that moment, being physically hurt like that, especially if you've never been physically assaulted before, it's a shock,
Yeah. And it's like we said, 4 to 5 seconds. So, and a lot of times women are overpowered, right?
Right.
Size difference, whatever.
Yeah.
So it is hard.
We can always say on these episodes, if you're in need, call our hotline. And I know sometimes, all the time, most of the time, right? That is the hardest thing to do, is to pick up the phone and to call. But on this episode, I'm going to plead with you. If you are experiencing domestic violence in any form, but especially strangulation, I ask that you hear us, you hear what we shared today, and you take it in, and you consider giving us a call, even if it's just to make a safety plan, even if it's just to talk about what the next steps are. In our last episode, we talked about we're not going to immediately call the police. We're not going to report anything. We're going to empower you to make those decisions, right? So if you are being strangled, please reach out to our hotline. It's always in the description, but I'm going to say it right now. It's 888-341-9568. But it's also important, Jen, you always talk about it, documenting things.
Yeah. Keep documentation. Send it to multiple things. Don't just leave it on your phone. Send it to multiple, email, whatever.
Yeah.
So you have multiple ways to get that, because we get calls where ladies are like, he destroyed my phone, I don't have any,
right,
or deleted it or whatever. So those are just a few little things.
So a good idea is to create an email address not connected to your phone number. Create a Gmail. It can be whatever you want it to be, incognito, and simply type out things when you have privacy and send it, and then immediately go to where you sent it from, delete it, and then go to trash and immediately empty your trash. And there's not going to be any kind of
no record
of that. But it's going to that private email that doesn't have your name on it, doesn't have anything related to you, and no one has a connection to.
Yep.
So that when you are ready if you ever are ready to report it or you need it for court or anything else, all you have to do is just pull up that private account. And like we said earlier, you don't have to have pictures. You do, like, if obviously if you have red marks or bruising, take the photos. But if you're not showing those things, don't think you're not going to be believed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what do you always say, Jen? Call 911.
Yes. I never hang up with a survivor who calls and I say, if you are in danger, don't be afraid to call 911.
And truly, it's heartbreaking at that point. But
yeah, I don't care if they've been out to you, because some people say, well, I called them 10 times and they come out and he talks his way out of it or whatever. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Call 911.
Yeah, especially, if you're being strangled, it needs to be addressed. You have to seek the proper help. And that's another thing. It's also strongly recommended that you reach out to your doctor or reach out to a doctor, whether that be an ER doctor, an urgent care doctor, or your primary care doctor. Reaching out to a doctor after you've been strangled just to get the proper checks to make sure you don't have internal damages, to just take precaution. It's simply a precaution. And it protects you in the long run. Yeah, you also have that documentation as well if you go to the doctor.
Yep. Get checked out. Make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. You're going to be afraid to go because you're like, oh, if I go and tell him, then he's going to report it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's why you're scared to go, right?
Yeah. But I think living a long life where you can escape abuse and experience the hope that we know is available, that's so much greater.
Yeah.
And the fears that we experience as survivors last, in the moments that we have them, and then they're replaced as we start to heal, whether that be, healing alongside community members that have faced the same kinds of trauma, or healing on your own, or healing with close friends, or finding a partner that's healthy for you and healing alongside them. It can look like a lot of different things. And I can just say that I know that there's a better life, a life that is safer and filled with more peace. And if you're being strangled or abused in any way, physical, verbal, emotional, spiritual, financial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you do not deserve that.
Yeah. Get out.
Call our hotline. Call a friend. Connect with a safe a family member, and start walking towards that path of peace and healing.
Yep. You don't deserve it. You're a human being. You deserve to be treated like one.
Exactly.
Yep.
This has been a tough episode.
Oh, it's heavy.
So if you've listened and you've gotten to this point, I really want to encourage you to do a check-in with yourself, do some self-care. If you need to reach out to a healthy friend or to our hotline, you're always welcome to. But we want to be able to have these tough conversations, like we've said, so that if one person hears it and they flee, then that's one person saved.
Yep. Yep. And always remember, we get calls all the time. People are advocating for somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, my friend is going through this. What does she need to do? What can I do to help? And we try to, get
call
a plan.
us. We'll tell you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to anybody, right?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to call. You get to talk to me. I'm not scary. I don't think I am, anyways.
No.
So a while ago I thought that was a gnat. It was an ant.
Oh.
And it crawled up, and I looked.
What?
That's why I took my headphones off. I crawled and look, and he was just crawling up.
Stop.
We're in the mountains, so.
Why was there an ant?
He was on the podcast. This ant, we could have named him.
He just wanted the spotlight.
He did.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he was crawling.
So remember, the hiding place.
Donate.
You can follow us.
You
What?
can follow us. I was saying donate.
Oh, donate. Yes, you can follow us on social media. Facebook, The Hiding Place. Instagram, at The Hiding Place Pickens. And on both of those social media accounts, you are able to get direct links where you can donate to our program. We survive solely off of community donations, small foundation grants, companies that think we're cool and doing a cool thing.
Yeah.
So we're always looking for new partnerships. We fight hard for funding because we fight hard for our survivors. And when I think of funding and I think of this program surviving and surviving for years to come, I think about faces.
Yeah.
I don't just think about, oh, this program is like thriving. I think about the faces of every single person we've helped, are currently helping, and I see them. I see their children's faces, and we work hard because we don't give up on them, and we want to be able to walk beside them. And we see the value of what the hiding place is bringing.
Yep.
So,
for sure,
please donate. The link is also directly in our description to donate. But we like that you follow us on social media to keep up with us.
Yeah. And reach out. If you have a topic that you're interested in,
yeah,
reach out. Shoot us an email, shoot us a message on Facebook, and we'll be glad to research a little bit and go through some of the what you
And we're trying to get a hang of season 2, but we want to have some survivors on who are willing to share their stories. So if that's you, we had one survivor, and she actually painted both of these photos
I know,
behind
right?
me.
Yeah, so
we had her on season 1.
The one behind me, right?
Oh yeah, that one right there, the mountain one.
This one, yeah.
The lighting's weird.
Yeah.
If you didn't get to see Jay Francis, the artist that we interviewed last season, go check out that episode. She was awesome.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to do that again this season. So if you're interested, reach out, and when we're ready, we'll have you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I do want to do one last little blurb, and that's that we're going to have a virtual silent oh my God, because I hear myself. Sorry,
silent
I have to turn my
auction.
I
You
have
don't
to
like hearing
turn
yourself?
my thing off. We're further away this time, so I couldn't hear Jennifer very clearly, so I had to turn it up. But if I hear myself, it's like behind a beat, and so I like get tripped up over my own words.
See, I have to hear myself.
I'm interrupting myself, and I'm like, wait.
Yeah, I have to hear myself in my ears.
So I'm going to try this again. Virtual silent auction. Virtual silent art
auction.
Silent art auction.
Silent art auction. Say that fast.
Virtual silent art auction.
Silent art auction.
On through our Facebook and Instagram, you'll be able to click the link directly to the auction. It starts Friday the 30th and goes through June 6th. So even if you're listening to this podcast a little later over the weekend, you can go and check it out. It's going to be really cool. I'll show our YouTube folks all kinds of art that has been created by survivors.
Very cool.
So we're going to have all of these on a virtual platform, and you'll get to basically bid like a normal auction on these items, and we do ship them out. So
yeah, and really I think the shipping's included in there somewhere. I think didn't we do that?
It talks about it. Yeah, we'll
it'll add
do like a invoice later for shipping if you win.
So if you live in like Botswana,
we can send it to you, Botswanians.
Yes.
I can say Botswanians, but I can't say virtual silent art auction.
Well, you throw the art word in there. Silent auction is normally normal. When you throw art in there, it's a little weird.
I wish I was a Botswanian.
Silent art auction. Yeah. Botswanian. I use that term a lot. Where are you from? Botswana. It's a fun word.
Right. It's an actual place.
It is.
But anyways.
Yeah.
It's been fun, guys. I hope y'all don't think we're too crazy. We like to have fun, but we also like to inform. So it's a little mix of both.
Yeah. Thank you for welcoming my little ant friend for a little bit. Yeah. I'm going to have to go back and look at that.
That's actually horrible.
Yeah. We're on the mountain. Like,
Whatever.
you're
All
just
right.
hanging.
Well, next week you will see us again Friday. So make sure to check it out. If you didn't listen to episode 1, go listen to that. And we hope to connect with you all soon.
Bye.
I was going to wait. Are you going to say bye?
See ya.
See ya.